Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. In the previous lecture, we have discussed about the shear stress distribution in the beams. Okay, we discussed that the how the variation in the bending moment causing horizontal shear stress, which indeed is equal to the transverse shear stress. Okay, so in today's lecture, we will discuss about this problem, and in this problem we'll see that what is the importance of the horizontal shear stress. Okay, why do we need to study that concept? Okay, so before going to this problem, I want to discuss few things regarding the shear distribution formula which we have derived in the previous lecture. Okay, so the formula which we derived in the previous lecture was tau equals to tau is shear stress equals to shear force into Q upon may I into B. Okay, where V is shear force at that cross section. Okay, Q is the first moment of area of the where we want first moment of the area where we want to calculate the shear stress. Means what? If I have this cross section, okay, and I need to calculate this shear stress at this level. Okay, so my Q will be, this is my neutral axis. Okay, this is my neutral axis. So my this is so the Q will be, if I want to calculate the shear stress at this level, so my Q will be the moment of this above area about this neutral axis, first moment of area about this neutral axis, and I is the moment of inertia of the complete cross section about the neutral axis, and B is the width at that location where we have to find the shear stress. So this is the basically the this is what we discussed in the last lecture about this formula. Okay, there are certain assumptions which are made in this formula. Okay, what are the assumptions are, number one assumption is that plane section, that is a very important assumption, that plane section will remain plane after the bending. Okay, plane section before the bending will remain plane after the bending. What is meant by that? Basically, when we have a load over here, this is so let us suppose this is my cantilever beam. This is the cantilever beam. Okay, and this is the cross section of this cantilever beam. Okay, and this is my longitudinal axis, and here this is neutral axis. This is neutral axis. Okay, so before the application of load, this is my cross section plane. Okay, it is making an angle 90 degree with the longitudinal axis. Okay, this cross section is making an angle 90 degree with the longitudinal axis. Okay, here also it is making 90 degree angle, here also it is making 90 degree angle. Okay, so what happens is that when I apply load at this point, the beam will bend. Beam will bend like this. Okay, here also you can see that the area of the cross section is still perpendicular to the longitudinal axis. So the meaning of this theorem, the meaning of this assumption was that the plane should be remain vertical. Here you can see that the plane is vertical. It is still vertical and is perpendicular to this longitudinal axis. Okay, there is no, the plane section remain plane. This section is plane before bending and after the bending. So this is the assumption which is also followed in this formula. Okay, plane section will remain plane. Okay, before bending and after the bending. Okay, so what happened is that what happened is that why I'm discussing this point, because if if this beam if we sh- if we reduce the span of this beam, okay, if we reduce the span of the beam, and we increase the load to larger amount. Okay, if we increase the span of the beam and we increase the load to the larger amount, okay, and what we do, we also increases the depth of this cross section. Depth of this cross section is also increased. Okay, when these conditions are met, when we use shorter spans, heavy load, and very narrow beams. Very narrow beams. Very narrow beams means what? This is width, this is h. Okay. The depth of the beam is much larger than the width of the beam. Okay. Means here we can say that h is larger than b. Okay. So, so this is a very narrow beam. And why we are discussing this point over here? Because if I calculate the deflection of this cantilever beam and below the load when these conditions are met, okay. So at the end of this end, due to this load P, my deflection will be deflection due to bending, deflection due to bending plus deflection due to shearing. Okay. So deflection due to bending will be what? PL cube upon me 3EI, and deflection due to shearing will be PL over me AV into G. Okay. So you can see over here when my span is very large. Okay. When my span is very large and I'm using the normal beams over there. There you can see that the bending phenomena will be dominant over here. Means what? This the shear displacement will be very less. Okay. In case of normal beams, when the span is large, then this deflection will be more. Why more? Because here we have the L cube term. Okay. So when we have the cylinder beams, there the bending phenomena will dominate. But when we'll have the shorter spans over here, shorter span, heavy load, and very narrow beams, there you can see that then we will see that then we can say that although the deflection due to bending will be more, but there will be significant contribution from the shear deflection also. Okay, because if I'm increasing the depth of the beam, here you can see that this is moment of inertia term, which is I is directly proportional to h cube. Okay, and here AV is what? Nothing but B into h. Okay, basically it is a reduced cross section area, but we can write it as a B into h. So here you can see that this deflection is directly proportional to 1 upon h, and this term is 1 upon over my h cube. So if I increase if I'm increasing this depth of this beam, then the shear deflection phenomena will dominate, will have a significant contribution. Okay. In the previous cases, in the cylinder beams, let us suppose if shear deflection due to shear is in cylinder beams, okay, shear contribution will be very less. Shear contribution is very less. Okay, like it will be around 1 to 2% maybe. Okay. In the previous lectures, I have calculated how much deflection we are getting through what is the percentage, how much deflection we are getting through the shear phenomena. Okay, the deflection due to shearing. I have solved one problem over there, which you can see where we have seen that the deflection due to bending and deflection due to shearing is very less percentage of deflection due to bending. Okay. So when the beams will become thick, when these conditions are met, remember one thing. Then shear contribution will be around 15 to 20%. Okay. So when the shear contribution is there, what is meant by that? Okay, so when these conditions are met, like I have short span, heavy load, and very narrow beams, when these conditions are there, so what happened is that this is my cantilever beam over here. Okay, So if I'm applying a load over here, if I'm applying a load over here, vertical load P, okay, this is my neutral axis. Okay, when I'm applying the load vertical P over here, the shear force will be constant all over this cross section. Okay, I'm considering one cross section over here. This is the cross section I'm considering over here. Okay, so I have considered one element over here, this element. Okay, and one element at the neutral axis and one element at this point. Okay, so if I cut my section over at this point and make it as if I cut the section over here, so at this point my shear force will be in this direction. Okay, so and the elements which I am considering over here are at this location. Okay, so at this top fiber, the shear strain will be minimum. Okay, at this top fiber, my shear strain will be minimum. Okay, same goes for this also. Okay, shear strain will be minimum. Okay, what is meant by this thing? Shear strain will be minimum means what? Here at this in this portion, I will have very less shear strain. Okay, and the maximum shear strain will be at this location. Okay, so if I draw this element over here, this is my shear force P. To balance this force, one shear force will be like this. Now the complementary stress will be there, shear stress will be there. It will look like this. Okay, so there are chances that this element will deform like this. Okay, this element will deform like this. Okay, so when the shear forces are dominant, when the shear contribution is more, then the shear deformation will also be more. Okay, so then when the shear deformation is more, then what is my deflection diagram? What is my cross section will be look like this? Okay, this member. Okay. Okay. Then there are chances that I may get some warping in this cross section. Okay, I may get some warping in cross section. Means the cross section area shape is not vertical. But the shape is now you can see that there is a now you can see that the cross section area is not plane before bending and after bending. Why? Because the shear contribution is dominating. Shear contribution is coming into the picture. So I cannot use this formula. Why I cannot use this formula? Because all the derivation which we derived over in this formula is considering the deflection stresses. And while calculating the deflection stresses, I have assumed one assumption that major assumption that plane section remain plane before bending and after bending. But when the shear deformation is more, then you can see that the cross section can warp over here. Okay, this location also, at every location it will warp because shear force is the same, so it will have same effect over all over the beam. Okay, so this is the major assumption which we have discussed in this formula, that plane section will remain plane after bending. Okay. So this is the important thing which we have discussed. Okay, means what? In case of short span, heavy load and very narrow beams, I cannot use this formula. Okay, then I have to go some bit different approach where we know the elastic solutions. Okay, elastic solutions. Okay, so elastic solution theory. Okay, and this concept is based on the elemental theory. Okay, so this is my first assumption in this, is that plane section will remain plane after the bending. Now again, one assumptions, let us suppose, again I'm considering the beam, cantilever beam, okay, any beam you can consider, not a big deal, okay. So this is a cantilever beam and I'm applying a load P over here, okay. So next thing, at this cross section, and this is the cross section of the beam, this is the cross section of the beam, okay. Like beam will look like this, actual beam. Okay, so I am talking about this cross section area, okay, and I need to get, I am calculating, let us suppose I am calculating the shear stress at this level, okay, I am calculating the shear stress at this level, okay, and this is the width is, this is the width is B and the cross section is H, okay. At this level I am calculating the shear stress, okay. When I am calculating the shear stress, the magnitude will be same in horizontal direction and in vertical direction, okay. So so if my cross section is B into H, okay, if the value of B by H ratio is 0.5, okay, so what happens is that at this level, this is cross section, if this value is 0.5, the shear stress distribution will be like this, okay. At the end faces, I am getting the value of, this is tau max, okay, and here I am getting the value of tau minimum, okay. And through this formula, what I am calculating is, through this formula, what I am calculating here is tau average. So this will be my tau average. Average stress is same throughout the cross section, okay. This is at this level I am calculating. At this level I am calculating the shear stress, okay. At this level I am calculating the shear stress. So if I what happens is that if I am calculating the shear stress at this formula, so at this level my tau average will be or you can say that tau max is 1.0 times of tau average, okay. This solution we will get through the this thing, elastic approach theory, okay. So I'm just telling the how much variation is there, okay. But when B by H is equals to 2, let us suppose B by H equals to 2, okay. So it will look like this, okay. Again, at this level, if I'm calculating the shear stress, and I'm getting the value, over here like this. Okay, so this is my shear stress. Okay, so what I want to tell is that now in this case I'm calculating the value. This is my tau average. Okay, this is tau average. So you can see that the tau average, the tau max will be approximately equals to 1.4 times of tau average. Okay, this solution again we got from the classic elastic theory. Okay, so when the cross section, when the B by H ratio is becoming large, becoming large and large. So this formula will give you some wrong results. Okay, or you can say that the results are not reliable. Okay, because the tau average and tau max difference is much large. In case of when the B by H value will increase, the difference between tau max and tau average will also increase. Okay, so generally this formula we will use in case of our narrow beams. Okay, where the B by H is not very large, where B by H should not large, should not be much, should not be, or you can say that ratio of the B naught should not be more. Okay, B by H should not be more. Okay, there will be some error in this formula. Okay, so this is the second assumption we have taken, and the cross section area, and the next assumption, next thing which we can say in this formula is that if I, let us suppose this is the IB. Okay, now if this is the I beam over here, or you can draw it pretty bigger. Okay, so this is the I beam. Okay, and this is the cross section. So as per this formula, what should be the shear stress at this point? What should be the shear stress at this point? It will have some value over here. Why some value over here? Because shear force will be there at this cross section. Okay, Q will be there. Okay, first moment of area of this line, moment of inertia is there, width is also there. But what happens is that if I look into the practical situation at the end of this beam, at the, like if this is the cross section of the beam, okay, this is the cross section of the beam, and if this is the cross section of the beam, at this portion there is a this is the outer boundary. Okay, there won't be any shear stresses at this point. There is no surface. There is outer surface. So this shear stress will be at this 0 at this point and will be 0 at this point. This 0 I can deduct. I can get through this formula, but this at this point I'm not getting the value 0 by this formula. Okay, so this formula is giving me is not depicting the correct boundary condition at this point. Okay, so at this point, because the shear stress should be equals to 0, means if what happens is that how do I draw this figure? This point, okay. So what I meant is that if, let us suppose, I'm taking this cross section over here, area over here. Okay, I'm taking this cross section. This is the horizontal portion. This is the horizontal portion. At this point, my shear stress will be 0. This tau will be equal to 0 because this is the outer boundary. Okay, and the vertical shear stress will also 0 for this element. Okay, this near to this boundary due to complementary concept. Okay, so this thing I'm unable to predict. By this formula. Okay, means at this point my shear stress will be 0 because this is the outer boundary. There is no contact surfaces over there. So this, at this point my vertical shear stress, the horizontal shear stress is 0. So at this particular element also my vertical shear stress should be 0. So this thing can't be predicted by this formula. Okay, so this is at this point exact boundary conditions, cannot be predicted. Okay, so this is the one more assumption. This is the one drawback, or you can say that the drawback of this formula. Now, okay, and one more thing, at this junction point, okay, at this, suppose I'm joining this flange if the cross section area changes, okay, at this portion also the results are not too much reliable. Okay, by using this formula, the results are not the results at the junction point due to sudden change in cross section, due to sudden change in cross section are not reliable. Okay. So what happens is that means there is some sudden change of cross section is there. So after changing a sudden change, when the sudden change of cross section is there at this point, at these points, when the sudden change of cross section is there, there might be some stress concentration issue, Okay, so to about to so to so at this point the result may deviate from the actual results. Okay, the result which we get from this formula may vary from the actual results. Okay, so these are these are some few things which I want to tell you regarding this formula. Okay, and if something is left, while discussing the problem, I'll cover those things. Okay, so let's come to the problem. Okay, let's come to the problem over here. What the problem is the I have given I have one beam, simply supported beam over here. Okay, in the beam I have one UDL which is 6.5 kilonewton per meter. Okay, and the cross section of the beam is 150 by 30, and again this is 30 31. Okay, this is the cross section of the beam. And how the cross section of the beam I made over here is that these are the two wooden blocks. These are the two separate wooden blocks. Okay, this is also a wooden block. So I joined two wooden blocks. Okay, I joined two wooden blocks at this point. I joined two wooden blocks. So I'm using some glue over here. Okay, some glue to join these wooden blocks. Okay. So now my question is, how much stress is coming to this glue? How much stress is coming to this glue at this joint? Okay. Or in other words, you can say that how much resistance this glue need to provide so that these two portions should not slide over each other. Okay. How much resistance should be glue provide so that this two portion will not slide each other? Should not slide each other. Okay. Should not slide each other. Okay, means they should not slide over each other. Okay, should not slide over each other. Okay, why they will slide over each other? Because due to variation in bending moment, I have some horizontal shear stress, which I have already calculated. How to calculate this thing we have already discussed. Okay, so due to that horizontal shear stress, this portion can move. Okay, to make it as a single unit, I have applied some glue over here. Okay, now I have to check how much shear stress is generating at this point. Okay, so that is basically a concept of the horizontal shear stress, that why we are calculating the horizontal shear stress. Okay, so we'll come to the problem. So what happened is that if I remove this joint, if I this is the one portion of the beam. Okay, and if I remove this portion, my beam will look like this. Okay, my beam will look. This beam will look like this. Okay, this beam will look like this. Okay, I'm just taking this portion. Okay, above this portion is kept. Okay, so I'm showing you the what is the stress generation. Okay, due to some shear force, I don't know what the direction of the shear force will be. This shear force, let us suppose that this portion and this portion, this is the same portion. This is, let us suppose this is xx and this is xx. At this portion, my vertical shear will look like this. Okay, at this portion. And as per the complement theory, my this horizontal shear stress will look like this. Okay, so this horizontal stress is applied on the groove. This horizontal stress, is applied on glue. Is applied on glue due to variation in bending moment. Okay, because if the moment is constant, if there is uniform bending, then we don't have any shear stress. Okay, so so now my main purpose is to calculate at which portion I should get, at which portion I should get the maximum shear stress, because I will design my this adhesive system as per my maximum shear stress. So I need to find where the maximum shear stress will occur. Okay, at which location of the beam. Okay. So as per the formula, my formula is tau equals to V into Q over A into I into B. Okay, B is basically the width. Width is fixed. At this location, I have to calculate. Okay, so basically my tau will be max. These all terms are constant because I need to calculate at this location only. So location is fixed. So this thing is variable. Okay, so my tau max is directly proportional to V. So I need to calculate where the maximum shear force will occur in the beam. Okay, so I need to calculate where the maximum shear force will occur in the beam. At that location, my shear stress will be maximum. Okay, so now what I will do, I will solve this beam. It is very simple beam. This is the determinant structure, and I'll draw the shear force diagram of this beam. And why I'm drawing the shear force diagram? Because I need to locate the location where the shear forces are maximum. Okay, so let us come to the beam over here. This is my simply supported beam. Okay, and this is a UDL 6.5 kilonewton meter. Okay, this is distance 4 meter. This is 4 meter. Okay, so what happened is that I need to calculate the shear force. Okay, total load is what? 6.5 into 26 kilonewton is total 0.2. Okay, 26 kilonewton is total 0.2, which will be acting at this distance 2 meter from here. Okay, 2 meter from here. Okay, now y26 effective 6.5 into 4, 26 kilonewton. Okay, so if I calculate the bending moment, the moment equilibrium about A point, I get 26 into 6 equals to RV into what? RV into 8. Okay, so 26 into 6 divided by 8 will be equals to 19.5 kilonewton. This is 19.5 kilonewton. So this is at this location my shear force will be 19.5. Okay, and at this point my shear force is 6.5 kilonewton. Okay, so now I'll draw the shear force diagram. So at this location, shear force is 19.5, but it is in upward, so it will be negative on this side. Okay, this is 19.5. Okay, at this point, shear force is in upward direction, so it will be positive. Okay, up to this point, it is constant. Okay, now when it is constant up to here, then it will move like this. Okay, so this is 6.5 kilonewton and this is 19.5. So you can see from the shear force diagram that maximum shear force will occur at this point. Okay, I simply joined these two things. Okay, I'm not checking the variation due to this thing. This load, just at this point it is 6.5 kilonewton. At this point it is 19.5 kilonewton. So I'm simply joining this by straight line. Okay, so my shear force is maximum at this support condition, that is 19.5 kilonewton. Okay, so what happens is that, oh sorry, this direction will be like this, complementary direction. It should like this. Okay, so at this point, my shear at this section, the shear force is maximum. So this is the section at support. Okay, this should be the section at support. Okay, shear force will be in upward direction. shear force at this support will be in upward direction. So the effect at the cross section will be a shear force in upward direction. Okay. So if I draw it over here, okay, I am talking about this joint only. Okay. So due to this 19 kilonewton load, this load it will act in upward direction. This 19.5 kilonewton load. Okay, due to this load at this location, I'll have some vertical shear stress, transverse shear stress. Okay, two as a complementary of which will be the horizontal shear stress. Okay, so this is my horizontal shear stress. Okay, this should come like this. Okay, if this is my stress system, so the complementary of this will be like this. So now I need to calculate this stress. Okay, so my shear is maximum. So the formula of the calculating the shear stress is tau equals to V into Q over I into B. Okay. Now my first task is to calculate the moment of inertia of this B. Okay. But before calculating the moment of inertia, I should know the where my neutral axis will lie. Okay. So again, I need to calculate. This is 300 mm, not 300 mm. This is 30 mm. This is 150. This is 30 again. And this is 150. Okay. Again, I need to calculate. First, I need to calculate the neutral axis of the beam. Okay. Neutral axis of the beam will be same as the centroidal axis. Why? Because the stress distribution which we are considering, all the analysis are in our linear elastic state. Okay. So the neutral axis will be similar to centroidal axis. Okay. So neutral axis is what where your stresses are zero. Okay. But the bending stresses are zero. Okay. So, and the bending strain due to bending will be zero at that location. Okay. So I need to calculate the neutral axis of this beam. Neutral axis, which is equal to centroidal axis also. So then, how do I calculate the centroidal axis? Okay. Basically, I need to look at the centroidal. So if this is my reference plane, over here, so my y bar, let us suppose this is my y bar. Okay, my y bar equals to summation y bar a upon a summation a. Okay, so y bar will is equals to, let us suppose, if first I will consider this figure. So the area will be 150 into 30 mm into, and the centroid of the center of this from this reference axis will be into 75 plus, again I will consider this topmost area 150 into 30 into this thing is what this centroidal distance will be 150 plus 15 yani into 165. Okay, I'm taking this centroid from this reference axis in y direction, and the area will be 150 into 30 plus 150 into 30. Okay, if I calculate the y bar from here, y bar will be 150 into 30 to 75. So my y bar is coming out to be 120 mm. Okay. I suppose I assuming that you know this formula. Okay, how to calculate the neutral centroidal point, or you can say that how to look at neutral axis. Okay. So this is my y bar. This is 120 mm. Okay, so this is my neutral axis. So why I calculated the neutral axis, because I need to calculate the moment of inertia about this axis only. Okay, at this axis only my bending stresses at this point location by the bending strain and the this thing the bending stresses will be zero at this point. Okay, so this is why it is called neutral axis. So this thing is okay. Now what I need to do is I need to calculate the moment of inertia. So to calculate the moment of inertia, what I will do over here, first I will consider this portion, then first this portion, then this portion. Okay, for this portion, my centroidal, for this only this portion, it will be 75. Okay, so my moment of inertia will be 150 into divided by 12 plus ah square. Area is what? 150 into 30 into, and what is the gap between the centroidal axis and neutral axis is 120 minus 75. This is 45 whole square. Okay, this you should know how to calculate the moment of inertia about a centroidal axis. Okay, I'm not discussing that formula over here. So I will be I1, you can say 150 into this 1755103. Okay, again then I2 will I will calculate about of this area. Okay, so it will be again 150 into 30 cube over my 12 plus this is the axis. Now what is the distance between this thing? This is 120 minus 180. This is 60 from here. So 60 minus 15 meaning 45. Okay, this again will be 45 into 45 square. Okay, so the value is 150 into 50. This is 9451234. This is I2. Okay, so total moment of inertia will be I1 plus I2. Okay, so it will be 1755. It will be 276 into 10 to the power 6 mm4. Okay, or you can write 2.7 into 10 to the power 6 7 mm4. So I have calculated the moment of inertia of this complete cross section. Okay, now next portion is, so this I will be 2.7 into 10 to the power 7 mm4. Okay, so now next task is to calculate what is the value of the cube. What is the moment of area? First moment of area about this neutral axis of this cross section area. Okay, I need to calculate the shear stress at this point. Okay, so shear stress at this point will be I need to consider the area of this portion. Area of this portion is what? Area equals to 150 into 30. Okay, so if I check, so if what will be q equals to a into y bar, where y bar is from centroidal axis. Y bar from centroidal axis. Y bar is what? Centroid of this portion. Okay, area of this portion is this. So centroid of this portion from this centroidal axis. So we already have calculated this value. It is what? 45 mm. Okay, this y bar. So q is what? Our first moment of area. First moment of area considered. Okay, so q equals to, area is what? 150 into 30 into 45. Okay, so this will come out to be 202500. And what will be the unit? Its unit will be mm cube. Okay, now I'll keep the value in the formula. Tau equals to v into q, a into I into b. Okay, so tau equals to, what is my v? V is 19.5 into 10 to the power 3 kilonewton. Q is 22500. Okay, and I is 2.7 into 10 to the power 7 into b. For the b, I need to consider this b. Okay, because the glue is applied over this portion. Okay, for this portion only. So b will be 30 mm. Okay. So if I solve this thing, So the shear stress which is coming out to be tau equals to 4.875 Newton per mm square. Okay. So what is meant by this? The meaning of this is that my glue should able to provide this much of resistance. Okay, at this point. So the glue is for need to provide some adhesive property of this amount. Okay. So if the addition is less than this, then the beam will slide over each other. Okay. In case of wooden beams, generally what happens in case of wooden beams? In case of wooden beams, let us suppose this is a wooden beam over here. Okay. So in wooden beams, what happens is that what happens is that the tensile strength and the compressive strength is much greater than longitudinal stress. Okay. So if this is the wooden beam, then the longitudinal stress, what or you can say that tensile stress, tensile strength, or compressive strength of this beam is greater than the longitudinal stress, the longitudinal strength between the grains, what I meant to say is that this beam is wooden. So this portion, the longitudinal stress will be my design criteria. Okay, but that is important because in beams, the wooden beam tensile strength or compressive strength is greater than the longitudinal stress. So generally, what happens is that this wooden beam will fail like this. Okay, will fail at this position. Okay, the failure will start like this. So that is the shear failure is there. Because at this location shear force is maximum, and then in the wooden beams, the longitudinal stress between the grains is less. Okay, the strength between the longitudinal direction is less. So then wooden beams will observe this type of splitting, horizontal splitting will be there. Okay, so guys, I have discussed this topic and I tried to show you some assumptions in this formula and what is the importance of the horizontal shear stress in the beams. Okay, why do we need to calculate all those things? Okay, so if you have any doubt regarding this, if you are not clear how these stresses are coming, what is complementary stresses is generated, how these things are there, then you can write in the comment section. Okay, so we'll discuss this thing in details. Okay, I'll discuss some more problems on this, and in those, if things are not clear in this problem, then in those problem we things will be much more clear. Okay, so this is the basic simple problem on this formula. Okay, so thank you very much, guys. Okay.